Folks, how honest are you in your relationships? Ooh, big question. Listen, the answer to that question is going to mean a lot of things. And I have Ken Bogard. Is it Bogard or Bogard?
Bogard.
Bogard, Ken Bogard, and Grace Gavin. And listen, these authors are fantastic. I've read the book. I can't wait to get into it. There's some edgy parts. But first of all, welcome, Ken, and welcome, Grace.
Thanks for having us, Kary.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's a big day. You got a lot of stuff going on. You got a big party, big launch party. Let's talk about that first of all before we get into the content. Like, what's happening tonight?
Oh, we've got 150 at least people joining us in person for our launch party, and then who knows how many are joining us virtually. We're going to be available everywhere, and I think by the time people are seeing this, it'll already happen, but you can go watch the replay, and we've got some really great speakers that are coming. So it's not just Ken and I, but we've got some speakers, some hot seat guests. So it's a whole production we got going.
It is. I've been part of these before. Well, tonight, when I see it go live, I'm going to weigh in and say, hey, and share and stuff. But this is huge. So listen, truth be told, I don't personally read all 1,100 books that we've published, but this is one where I said, I'm going to read it. And when I read this thing, I'm going to go right with Ken and then right with Grace, because I gotta ask about a point. First of all, I think the book is amazing because you embody what you write about. I mean, you could have written about no honesty in a very abstract way, distanced yourself, but you just went gut level honest. I'm going to talk about a conversation that Ken had with his wife. I'm going to talk about a male chauvinist comment that was made to Grace that turned into an amazing thing. So I got a lot to share and ask questions. But Ken and Grace, why did you decide, like, look, we're going to just lay it all out there with this book?
It was really important to us to have the stories in there. And I don't know, Ken can answer this too, but to me, it's weird to write a book and not put yourself in it. And to be honest in the book and to really display that for people, like you're saying, Kary, to be the example and to help people show, look, this is possible. This can be done. And we're doing it right here in this book. Some of these stories that went out, Ken and I were talking like, wow, are we really going to put that in the book? Are we really going to say that, tell people these things and put it out to the world? And we did. And it's really important to us.
There's so much goodness about this book. First of all, I mean, on launch day, boom, 48 reviews, and they're climbing. I see more coming every day. You got the Holy Grail. You got the ebook, the audiobook, the paperback, the hardcover. The book looks fantastic. We went over the cover a lot. You wanted to capture this. Ken, talk about the cover. What does the cover represent? I know we went through a lot of versions and you wanted it just right. And I think you nailed it, but what does the cover speak about?
Yeah, before I started working with all the leadership teams and companies that I have, probably about 8.5 years ago, I was trying to devise a system, an approach to try to help businesses. And ultimately, I ended up running with the EOS. But before that, I'm like, there's something wrong with our ability to communicate. And just created a business called No Honesty.
Yeah.
And added K and W to it to say, well, I think we need to do a double meaning here and a play on words. And what's interesting is every time I had a conversation with somebody and they asked, well, what's your company called? And I said, well, No Honesty. And like, okay, well, that's interesting. And then there's a few people that are saying things like, well, I don't know why you would name it that, or it seems kind of negative. But here's what happens. In every single conversation where I say I have a company called No Honesty, the conversation keeps going.
Oh,
intrigued, and they like it and they're interested. And I think there's an attraction to the word honesty, especially as it relates to the individual. And so what I'm trying to get across with the cover and why Grace and I decided this is what it needs to be called is because there is a huge lack of honesty in the world, a huge lack of honesty in our relationships, and we need more of it. And it's not going to happen if we don't understand and truly know what that means.
Great. So I'm going to go to you because there's one example that, again, I just read the book, so I got it in my head. But I think you tell a story about somebody who broke up with a guy or got a divorce, and they're telling another friend, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't like him anyway," or, he wasn't right for you, or something like that. And the whole point is like, why are we supposed to be truth tellers and have these friends, and then they wouldn't tell us that? Like, tell us that story. Am I making this up? Am I dreaming, or was that really in there?
No, it's in there, and it was my own story. And it's frustrating because we're seeing this happen in businesses, but this is also happening in our personal lives.
Mm.
And so if we don't have an ability to be honest in our work lives, and we don't have it in our personal lives, then where are we experiencing this at all? And so I wanted to talk about this idea of sometimes our loved ones get into relationships with people, and it's just not the best for them, and it's not bringing out the best in them. And I had this happen to me. And then afterwards, I had friends come to me and say, I don't even know what you saw in him. It's like, well, why didn't you tell me that? Because there I was wondering, like, am I crazy? Am I not seeing what's here? What's going on? Like, it doesn't maybe feel like the right fit, but I don't know. How do I know what the right fit is? And the point is that sometimes in our own lives, we have blind spots. And we need the other people around us to be honest with us, to be able to see those sometimes, because we don't see them for ourselves.
Yep.
And we don't step into that and just have a conversation with our people and say, hey, here's what I'm seeing. And like, what's going on? And let's talk about this. And that helps deepen the relationship too, because then we know the person's looking out for the best for us and not just for themselves and trying to say, I don't want to get into that awkward conversation. That's going to be a little bit too uncomfortable. Instead, let's step into it and let's have conversations with people and say, hey, here's what I'm seeing about this partner of yours or this person in your life. And let's talk about it. And where are you coming from? And maybe there's something that you're not seeing, but let's talk about it. And the problem is a lot of times we don't even have these conversations. We just keep it internal and we don't share with people. And I think that hurts us.
We don't share until it's time to share. And then what happens usually is this huge blow up. I mean, listen, truth be told, I'll be honest today. Like, my wife has told me at times I can be what do you call it? Something stuffer, like you just, I don't know, you just take it. And then finally it comes out. And usually it's like, whoa, where did that come from? I don't know, store and stuff. I don't know what the concept is, but Ken, you work with businesses all the time. And, I've had to work through this. And in the last 6 months, I've actually shared a lot more when it's surfacey. And I don't know, is this a guy thing? Is this a girl thing? Is this guys just, stuffing it and then thinking, no, I don't want to be honest or be vulnerable. And then boom, it comes out. What do you think?
It's an everyone problem.
Yeah,
for sure. And it's, everybody has the potential to be 100% honest and 100% open. Everybody has the potential.
Yeah.
And everybody has at some point in their life with some regularity been honest and been open. It's just the frequency is not as high as it should be.
Yeah.
And if we can get a population or a community, or especially our teams and our relationships, to agree that if we were all just more honest and we put truth on the table, that we're going to do better together. And so I think we have to agree on that. And then the other side of it is, well, we have to be open as well. And our second out of 3 essentials for openness is take it in and let it go. And I think what you're referring to is a lot of that. I'm the same way, was the same way. I've gotten a lot better at it, still doing it from time to time, but an ability to take in what's happening and then also to be able to let it go, because it does no good to stay in here. And there's more and more research that's talking about how that's bad for us. And so we have to have this ability to be open. And be open to us means to listen without reservation, put your needs and wants on pause for somebody else.
Yeah.
It's typically about others. And it's not always just about you, but there is that little piece of you that needs to take it in and let it go, because it's killing you to hold it in.
Grace, can people be too honest? Are there people who might see your book and be like, oh, I am so honest, I just tell everyone how I feel, and in a negative way?
Yeah, like being brutally honest is
Yeah.
not a good server of honesty, really, because
Interesting.
the way I explain it to clients is the idea of, if I come at you with a dagger, if I come at you with a knife, and that's my brutal honesty, so I'm coming at you.
Mm,
What does that person naturally do? They step back, right? They
yeah.
lean away. They don't
Right.
want that. And so, sure, you be brutally honest, but understand that it's not going to be received by people. They are going to
So it's a
step away. They
deliberate.
are not going to be open to it. And so what we want people to do is to still be honest, yes, 100% honest, and bring the love into it. Be 100% loving too. Recognize that there's a human being on the other side. So if you're giving feedback to your team member, are you doing it in a loving way? Are you doing it in a way to help them progress and to get better? Are you
Mm,
coming at them to cut them down to make yourself feel better? Because
yeah.
a lot of times that can be what it comes down to when we're brutally honest, is it's really not serving the other person. And then what I also see happening is that people are honest, yes, great, but they're not open. And
Mm,
so it
open.
doesn't really serve anybody if you're just honest, just honest, just honest, because it's like you're talking a lot, but you're not coming back to receive from other people.
Mm,
And so one of the things we talk about in the book is the open and honest model. And people who have just high honesty, but they don't have any openness alongside it, those are the people we experience as being aggressive, defensive,
mm.
arrogant, and just in general disregard others. And there's a
Wow.
lot of us out there like that. I'm guilty of it sometimes too, and recognizing we got to bring that openness right alongside. It's those two halves of
Mm.
communication that's really key, really important to have.
This is fantastic. And folks, you got to go to nohonesty.com. I love the fact that they have this assessment, and this assessment is called literally what? What is this? The open and honest assessment? Exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, we call it your pursuit of honesty assessment, or the open and honest assessment, it's often referred to. And we're just trying, Kary, when we were first writing the book, and we would talk to our connectors, or I don't know, prospects, or just anybody in the world, and we're just saying, hey, we're writing a book. I think people kind of looked at us like, yeah, you and everyone else, and I thought about that, and I'm like, we need something more profound for the world.
Yeah.
And then we started creating a assessment that measures how honest you are and how open you are in both your personal life and your work life, as you can see here. And so what it does is it wakes people up to, oh my gosh, like, here is the percentages I'm missing in terms of my ability to effectively communicate with another human being. And when I started telling people we have data on this, we can give this to your company or to your relationship, then people's ears perked up and they said, I'm interested. I want in. We want that. And so, and then I think people are realizing what this book is all about now. And there's a huge buzz about it, especially right in our community.
Yeah,
and
you did well.
It's about to blow up.
I'll tell you what, man, there's a couple days on LinkedIn in the past month where I'm like, influencer box, book cover, like the marketing's been amazing. We have a lot of authors. Some authors are like, I'm not going to market it at all. You guys have done really well. And here's why, because you know that the message is that important. Like, you could literally be saving marriages. You could be saving father, son, daughter, mother relationships. Let's jump in with two stories, because we have about 13 minutes left, and I want to hit these two stories that you talk about in the book. First of all, I think the book has done perfect balance, and here's what I mean. Folks, you've read books that are very dense. They're very academic. They have all the great content in the world. It's like the steak, and yet nobody wants to eat it. I like steak, but let's just say that it's ugly looking protein. It's good for you, but it's not appetizing. There's books out there that are like that, and they're really tough to read. They're good for you, but they're not appetizing. Then you have other books that are just story. And you're like, wow, I'm on for the ride. And then people say, well, what'd you learn? And you're like, I don't know, nothing. I feel like your book is the perfect balance between make a point, tell a story, make a point. And I feel like people are going to learn something. They're going to get your models, your graphics, your intellectual property. There's a lot of it in there, but they're also going to get it wrapped in this package that is a page turner. So Grace, you tell this story of a guy who made a comment to you that whatever was misogynistic is a big word, sexist is another, but like he made a comment that wasn't your best comment, and you could have had a response, but you didn't have a response, and it turned back in a business referral. Can you tell that story?
Yeah, I tell this story in the book, but just to hit it very briefly, I have this pink bag, if you will, and it's got all of my work things in it, and it turns into a backpack because it's very versatile. There are days where I'm just walking around the city, meeting to meeting, and I had it with me, and I was talking with this guy, and then we end the conversation, go to leave, and he looks at the bag and he's like, "Oh, it looks like you're all ready for kids with that bag." And my immediate first thought was, "What the? You don't say that to a woman. Like, what?
Yeah.
Where did he come from?" And so I go home to my
Yeah.
husband and I go on this whole rant of like, "Can you believe what this guy said? It's so sexist. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous." And credit to my husband. He's a very thoughtful man, and he kind of helped me see it
Yeah.
differently. Not that I
Right.
liked what he had to say, but he's like, do you think he meant it in a sexist way?"
Mm.
He's like, maybe that's what he just sees other people say, and he said it without thinking. And I was like, "Well, no, that's
Yeah.
definitely not it." And so as it happens, I think I saw him not too long after again, and we were in a conversation with a bunch of other people, and he goes, "Hey, you should talk to her. She really knows her stuff." And I was like, "Well,
Mm.
that doesn't equal what he said before."
Yeah.
And then as we were going to leave this event, he's like, "Hey, I'm working with this team right now. When we wrap up, I'm going to recommend you because I think they could use some help." And I was like,
Boom.
again, well, that doesn't equal what I thought before of this.
Yeah.
In my mind, what I had thought, and I wasn't very open to it, of just what it means to be sexist and all these things, and understanding that I had lost an ability to be open there, to really
Mm.
listen and to put all of my chatter in my mind on pause.
Yeah.
And if I had just been done and didn't engage with him anymore, we wouldn't have had that conversation where he's
Wow.
willing to refer me and believes in our work and things like that. And so it's just a reminder of looking at things again and maybe looking at it from a different perspective, because we don't always know what the other person means,
Right.
right? But we have to consider that, and we have to think about that a little bit more, because when we just jump
Yeah.
to our immediate assumptions, it does not help us.
Yeah.
And some of those assumptions are pretty hardwired in us,
Yeah.
right? Like I have heard so many stories that don't go that way, but
Because
that was
it
not my story.
sounds to me like you do what a lot of people do, and that's assume intent,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, okay, this guy said something, and here's what he meant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I really like the fact that as an author, you said, look, I'm going to be open and honest in the book. That's why I think the book works so well, because you're talking about this topic, but then you're embodying it as you wrote it, you know? So Ken, your story, my friend, wow. I was like, man, I see the whole I see myself in the Grace story. I see myself in the Ken story, but it's a story about you and your wife, and the silent treatment is going on. You guys got in a fight and argument, whatever. And, your wife kind of drops the mic and says, you can lead teams, but you can't lead the family, or something like that. Now, and the only reason that, like, every guy probably who loves leadership, and every woman, I don't know, I'm not a woman, I can't speak, but we can totally see that. Can totally. So give us the story. How did you get to open and honesty? Tell us that.
Yeah, I think that I do want to share this. I'm observing this conversation and how much we're talking about, or you're attracted to, more the personal side, the personal relationships. And in the book, we have so many work examples, but I love where you're going with it. Because when I do work in the session room with my clients of businesses,
right,
oftentimes the feedback I get back is, this stuff is awesome. I'm using this at home.
Yeah.
Here's what happened with my wife because of it. And so at first we're starting to write a business book, and I'm like, stop, this is for everyone. And so the fact that we're talking about it the way we are is great. because
And
that
let
is
me
what
say
we're
this really
after.
quick. This is exactly it. Don't you think people can crush it in business and massively blow it up in their personal, or vice versa?
100%. And I did. In that story, I did. I call it the silent fight. And it was a Friday, and my wife and I weren't talking to each other for some reason. And today we cannot name it. We don't know what the fight was about. So that's how small it was and trivial. First day, we didn't talk. It was Friday. Unfortunately, I had nothing planned for Saturday, and neither did she. So we were stuck in the house together. So we couldn't really avoid being in the same space. And we would walk past each other and not try to talk or lock eyes or anything. And so all of Saturday goes by and we don't talk to each other. And all these bad thoughts going in my head of like, oh, man, is this thing ruined? What has happened here? What do we do? And then it's Sunday. I mean, we went through 2 nights, nothing, no talking. And then it's Sunday. And I'm sitting on the couch and she comes down the stairs. It's like the perfect angle. She comes down and we lock eyes. And I thought, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
And she goes, you can fix leadership teams, but you can't fix us.
Wow.
And I just went through all these emotions in my head from, maybe anger at her for a moment and disappointment in myself to really being proud of her for doing it. And like, why didn't I say something? And here she is saying something. And like, yeah, we got to do this. And she's totally right. Like the statement was perfect. It was honest, pure Ilsa coming out. And she said what she needed to say. And I was open to it. And I'm like, all right, we're going to do something about this.
Wow.
And then what launched from there was, hey, the only way this is going to work is if we do 2 things together. If Ilsa, you tell me honestly how you feel about everything, just everything. And I'm totally going to listen to you. So I'm just going to shut it down. I'm going to listen. I'm going to hear you out. But here's the deal. I get to be honest too. And I want you to be totally open to me. So we agreed to talk this way. And we both said, yeah, okay, let's do that. And then so what would happen? She'd be a little bit honest. And I would start not being open. She's like, well, you're not being open right now. And I'm like, you're right. We're working on it. And then I'd start being honest. And then she'd get defensive. And I'm like, hold on. You're not being open right now.
Interesting.
And so we just ironed that conversation out. It took a couple hours. And then we're like, okay, we can do this. Like we know now how we need to be communicating to each other. And ever since we talk about that day, and I really feel to this day, we have an unbreakable relationship.
That's pretty cool, man. Listen, this is exactly what we're talking about. And I know we got to wrap up here. You got a full day, you got your party, you got all kinds of good stuff, but eliminate the divide, become a masterful communicator, and connect with anybody. Folks, this is the type of book that is going to help you in life, in business, in marriage, in parenting, in church. Like, I mean, we didn't even go there, but I think people have a spiritual focus. Are you open and honest with God? I mean, there's a question. Oh my gosh. I mean, you could go down that path for a whole, like long time. Right. And so I feel like this book I rarely say a book is good for everybody. I really do. I rarely, in fact, it's bad marketing. It's bad marketing to be like, hey, your book's good for everybody. But because, I mean, how do you market to the whole world? But I can't think of a situation that wouldn't be good for this book. I mean, can you guys think of any?
No, we've tried. We keep trying to poke holes in it, and we're like,
we didn't even talk about politics either. Like, there's
yeah.
so many ways
yeah.
across the globe. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
that's the truth. Oh my gosh, we could have 3 hours of chatting about politics and open and honesty. I mean, there's almost a joke in politics that you can't be open or honest. So
and that's accepted though. So we don't have to go into politics, but the crazy thing is, and the reason the timing of the book's great is because the world is begging for this.
Absolutely.
We laugh at politics the way we are just now, but it's accepted.
Yeah.
And like debate, like the debate was a big phony fake show. But this is what we're teaching our children and our society, that you get up into a conversation to win, not to hear each other, not to collaborate and lead this country. And so, I mean, it's totally applicable. Sorry, I had to go there, but
listen,
it just points to the bigger problem.
I mean, I think of sports teams, I mean, There's so, oh my gosh, this book's fantastic. So folks, you got to get it. I will tell you that even my integrator, Sarah and I, we had a no honesty chat this week because, you know, I was probably frustrating her and she was probably frustrating me. And we're like, look, and if we wouldn't have had that conversation, that's where things get sideways. And then you just stuff it and then it comes out 4 weeks later and, you know, it blows up. So I feel like the whole world would benefit from this book. Nohonesty.com. Go take the assessment, go register for their newsletter. It's going to help you. I mean, put it this way, if you don't pay attention to it, you'll pay attention to it with broken relationships, you know, in work and life. So Ken and Grace, it was a deep honor to publish this one. And, you know, I'm so glad I did the IP harvest because there's so much IP in this. And it just got me to really get hooked on the book. So,
yeah, appreciate you. Thanks for all the love, Kary.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Get your book, everybody. All right. Start being honest and open. Take care. We'll see you.